Well, ladies and gentlemen, Disney sinks $300 million into over-budget Little Mermaid, and of course, the puns write themselves. Flopping! This movie just flopped. It sunk to the depths of irrelevancy quicker than you would imagine. Forbes coming back with some absolutely great journalism work here, which is incredible to say because, hey, basically no one's a journalist in this day and age. But yeah, Forbes have uncovered the documentation which has to be filed in the UK. And this has to show, at the very least, what they filmed and sort of, as their budget in the UK. So $300 million is confirmed. It is over budget. And The Little Mermaid is a bigger flop than anyone could have imagined. It has probably lost somewhere in the region of $100+ million now, maybe verging on $200 to $300 million. Pretty insane. Hit subscribe if you're new here. And if you love a good pun, because, otherwise you're a bit of a fish out of water. Awful stuff. Anyway, so The Little Mermaid was a movie nobody wanted. Bizarre changes to the story. Just bizarre. Really, really bizarre. It was never going to do very, very well. And it was a strange decision for Disney, primarily because their other live-action remakes have done well. Traditionally, they've hit over $1 billion, or just about $1 billion. But that's because they followed the exact formula. They were carbon copies. And then with The Little Mermaid, they go, you know what? That redhead, that white redhead, we're going to swap that out. Going to give her dreadlocks. And she's going to be black for reasons, I guess. And that obviously disenfranchised a large portion of people because it seemed like it was obviously trying to push a narrative. And then you changed parts of the love story, bizarrely, randomly. And hey, the end result is a giant flop. So it's strange that they decided to do that in terms of business practice because they had a formula that was actually working for them. And this movie only did well in the States. Everywhere else, it was pretty much a universal bomb. So here we have it, right? Disney has revealed that the cost of making the live-action version of its classic cartoon, The Little Mermaid, swelled to nearly $300 million by the end of August last year. 8 months before the movie opened. Interesting. Now this is interesting because of their misrepresentation. And they do this. Why? Because of shareholders. So the colossal cost blows its estimated budget out of the water. Variety forecast that the movie had a $250 million production budget, and there is a good reason why it sailed past that. So they say this. Well, I mean, look, even $250 million is too much to spend on a movie that looks like absolute garbage. Like, the visual effects were terrible. Look at this image on the screen now. This image here is embarrassing. $250 million. And I've been saying about this movie for a little while now, but the creator was made for $80 million. And it looks substantially better. $250 million, it should look absolutely mind-blowing. But anyway, apparently, the reason why it sailed past its $250 million budget was because, as it began filming in the UK between late March and early April 2020, it was repeatedly delayed due to COVID. So, eventually got underway in January 2021 at Pinewood Studios, just outside London, but was again halted again in June due to multiple crew members contracting COVID. And obviously that all came at quite a cost because I would imagine they were keeping a hold of the set pieces. Now, another interesting thing about this movie is one of the set designers, a little old lady basically, is suing Disney because of a workplace injury that has now left her unable to work. So it's not just the loss of money from budget, overblowing, but also just ridiculous antics on set. But here we have this. So in the UK, you have to file things in the UK under Companies House, and it has to list the majority of, the law is it has to list everything, but inevitably, if they're coming back to the States and doing a little bit of post-production work and things like that, they're never going to list it all. So, but in the UK, you do have to list the majority of it, and that's because you get a tax rebate. So recently released filings from Disney confirmed that the cost exceeded the production budget primarily due to the COVID-19 impact. So this isn't the only reason the movie had its work cut out, because of course, opened in May this year. And they say this, this is Forbes, FYI, says black actress Halle Bailey, was cast as the eponymous heroine Ariel in a marked departure from the 1989 cartoon that the movie was based on. And Forbes play absolute dunces here and say, well, it fueled a racist backlash centered on the hashtag #NotMyAriel social media campaign, whilst online giant, the Internet Movie Database, IMDb, was awash with negative reviews of The Little Mermaid posted by bots in a bid to bring down its average score. I disagree with that. I think most people were questioning why the sudden change, and also it's a pretty honest question for people in Hollywood. Why consistently is every single redhead changed for a black person? That seems to happen all the time, and it's a pretty fair question to have. So I disagree that it was review bombing and all that nonsense that they love to say, which they literally say here. In the wake of the review bombing, IMDb said it had made changes to its rating system, but the movie was already in choppy waters by then. A lot of the criticism focused on its computer-generated graphics, which made the once cute, hand-drawn characters look like eerie aliens. I mean, yeah, how has this cost $250 million? Honestly. There are deepfakes that look better than this. This is embarrassing, and this is a real person. It looks awful. So strange. And even Vox got in on the action. There's something about these depictions that triggers an uneasy response. Maybe it's the prolonged lingering shots on their smiling faces, or that their tiny mouths are contorted in unnatural ways. Yeah, that was to do with the bizarre fish and stuff like that. It was just all very, very strange. Very strange choices. But yeah, the interesting thing is, like we say, so the movie itself, $68.1 million from 51 markets, drowned in China, where it opened to just 2.5 million. Basically, everyone labelled China racist for this. And they responded back with, literally released a statement by saying, well, no, we just don't respond very well to you trying to adjust things culturally. It was a classic for a reason, etc. But so the worldwide gross, anyway, and this is what's funny, $569.6 million. Now, Forbes, as smart as they are, a bit wrong here, because they're like, well, that's respectable, but a far cry from the $1.7 billion haul of Disney's live-action Lion King. Well, one, that didn't change anything. It was literally a live-action remake, kind of, with CG. And then the $1 billion for Aladdin as well. So, interesting, it was $300 million, because they say this, you've got studios receive around half the theatre take-ins, giving Disney an estimated $284.8 million from The Little Mermaid. Calculating whether this covered its production cost requires knowing how much Disney spent on the movie, which would usually be a closely guarded secret. But again, company's house. And that's because they get a cash reimbursement of up to 25%. So that's why. But this bombed. This absolutely bombed. And this is it. What do they spend the money on? Staffing was the single biggest expense. $26.8 million for staff. Because I had 252 people behind it. Staggering waste of money. Absolutely unreal. Yeah, just absolutely obscene. Absolutely obscene. They talk about some nonsense of men and women being paid different as well. It doesn't really matter, who cares? So the financial statements alone reveal that a total of $297 million had been spent on the movie by August 31st, 2022. And then comes the cash reimbursement. So Little Mermaid received $56.8 million reimbursement from the UK, bringing its net spending down to $240.2 million. But it still lost money, ladies and gents. This still lost money. Because if it took a total of $569.6 million worldwide, $240 million haul, you're breaking even on your production budget, barely, but you still got your marketing budget to cut into as well. So this lost cash, a considerable amount of cash, a lot of money. Not good, absolutely abysmal, woeful, in fact. So yeah, and they do this because they're trying to bring their share prices to a certain level, but it's just this absolute disgrace of reporting that these companies do. So yeah, Disney, $300 million sunk into The Little Mermaid. And it flopped like a fish out of water. Get it? Love a pun. Anyway, ladies and gents, love to hear your thoughts. I mean, bizarre, because we've got other Disney live-action remakes coming along the way that are arguably changing everything again as well. So it'll be fascinating to see if they choose to continue down this path. And I ask you, for those that stayed till the end, Snow White. That movie, ladies and gents, do we think that that's going to lose even more money than The Little Mermaid? Because I definitely think it will. I could be wrong, but I definitely think it will. So let me know your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear it. Drop your thoughts there. Disney, it's a sinking ship, that's for sure.